Peace and much love, and welcome to the Temple of Hip Hop. I am Minister Sun One. The Temple of Hip Hop is a hip hop preservation ministry, archive, school, and society. We believe that the best way to preserve hip hop is to preserve the actual hip hopper, you, the hip hopper. We're here live at the Temple right now. Today we're doing a special BDP Barbecue by Time Journey, and it's going to get live right here at the Temple of Hip Hop, 55 Ludlow, Newark, New Jersey, 07114, in case you need some directions. It's going down right in the parking lot. You know what it is. Today, we'll be talking about prophecy. The teacher will be giving a lesson on prophecy. Um, and I actually had something hit me today on the ride up here to the temple, which essentially go hard for your temple. Do not allow your temple to fail. Do not allow anything that we do to be less than excellent. This is where we need to be at this moment in time. The world is watching, and I can assure you, we are blazing them, blazing them. Y'all see the parking lot? Y'all see the building? We are truly building. And so I just want to say again, just make sure that you put your top effort forward. Put your top effort forward. Do not allow yourself to fail. Don't do it. Gather the strength. Do what you need to do. Inspire yourself. Get yourself up. You already know what it is. And with that, our teacher, KRS-ONE.
Absolutely. What's the deal? It looks sunny and all crazy out there. I'm on my way.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. You know what? Now that this thing is on, I'm actually seeing that my head is getting cut off here. I should slump down a little bit. But I'm going to lift this up real quick so I can get this going. As a matter of fact, you started out blazing, and I want to keep that blaze fire going because what you're saying is so correct. We cannot allow the Temple of Hip Hop to fail, and not in an ego way. I hope no one is taking it in that way, or in some sort of competitive way. Not like that, but in the way of we are the. Sometimes you don't know that you're like the last vestige of something, the front lines of something, and we often take ourselves for granted. Hold on one second. Let me just do it like that. And we often take ourselves for granted. And it's an interesting take. I like to jump right off that take because when you have a responsibility, when it's you, it's on you. I mean, see, a lot of people don't get that opportunity of leadership, so it's kind of tough to just explain it because we're living it every day. But to teach it, to explain it, it's sort of like the difference between the person who's playing the championship on the court, thinking NBA, basketball court, the one who's playing the championship and have to actually make this shot or these plays versus somebody on the sideline who is rooting you on, but not really playing the game. Right. You have an emotion toward the game that's being played. You root for your favorite player. You understand the game, and all of that, but you yourself are not playing the game. And this is that piece, that leadership piece, that we're going to talk about actually today. As a matter of fact, let me shout out Ashley on the technology today. That is wonderful. Let me also shout out Time Journey and the barbecue that's going down that you mentioned also at the top of this. Time is out there really leading the way, leading the temple of hip hop in terms of community liaison. You know, getting the community out there. She's feeding people.
That's right.
She's out there actually feeding people and blasting the music and letting everybody know who's in town. And so this is it. If we could start, I'll just start the lesson.
Yes, indeed. Peace to the God.
Peace to the God. You know, there are some announcements. Well, just one announcement I will make, which is September 8th, Chicago, stand up. If you're in Chicago, shout out to Malik One out there. But I'm coming to Chicago for September 8th concert. Will be at Grant Park, ripping it down. You already know what it is. September 9th will be in Cleveland, Ohio. Very next day, we wake up, we drive right in to another show, Cleveland, Ohio, and then we may go to Atlanta or we may come to New York. We got to get to Atlanta because we're beautifying the temple. This is also a call for those that want to join in on the beautifying of the temple of hip hop. We're calling for artists. We're calling for sculptors. We're calling for people that do arts and crafts, actually, you know, even curators, stuff like that. We have ideas, you know, as to what we know we want. But it's always best to get advice. And so, real quick, just want to put this up real quick. The Hip Hop Education Guidebook. See it? Yeah. With meth on the cover. No doubt. Shout out to Martha Diaz on this and everyone who had something to do with this. These are the books I'm starting to read. I'm starting to go over materials that we're going to be studying at the Temple of Hip Hop in 2024. That's when we are actually going to open up classes, courses, and you'll notice that throughout the winter, like from now to the end of the year, we'll be advertising the Temple of Hip Hop for its courses, classes, and inspirational workshops, and so on. We have a lot of work to do, so we're going to get to it. So I've been looking over some work of those that I think deserve to be part of our learning curriculum. There are others. Shout out to Mickey Fax on that lyricism book. I don't have one with me, but I would show you that as well. This is Martha Diaz. At least it is others. I mean, it's Marcella Runel and Martha Diaz with a foreword by David Kirkland, PhD, and of course, Meth is on the cover. And it says here, hip hop as an educational tool. This is amazing. Nice book. We're going to take a look at it. I've started to take a look at it. And one thing I will say, though, in contrast to the Temple of Hip Hop, and it's the word is contrast, is that this book is written for teachers that are already in like a public school. It speaks to them. It doesn't really speak to our culture, particularly. I say that respectfully. Of course, it speaks to our culture. It's talking about it. But just as an educational critique, the book itself, the study itself, not the book, the study itself speaks to teachers. It speaks to teachers that seem to already be in public school. It argues for, and college, it argues for hip hop to be taught in these areas as well. And here's how you can do it. Here's how you can teach the basics of hip hop. And it's really, really pretty good, if I must say so. And so there's that. There is this book here I started reading, South Bronx Rising, The Rise, Fall, and Resurrection of an American City. And this is Jill Jones, or Jones. And so started reading this too. You'll notice that I read about 5 books at once. It's crazy, don't ask me how. But I do read a chapter, put that down, go pick up something else, put that down, skim through something else, put that down, go back to the first one. I do that. It's whack. You probably shouldn't read books like this. but I'm an information grabber, so I read a certain way. I don't read for, like some people read for luxury. They read for enjoyment like that. And there's a read on that too, where you let your mind go into a book reading and so on. That's dope. But me, I'm more for the information. So I just go through 5, 6 different books. Not 5, 6, maybe like 3. 3 or 4, maybe 4, based on what, like you can have 3 books in a dictionary. So you're actually scombing through, 4 books at one time. But this I started getting into. Really nice read. Really nice. And that's what got me into it, actually, at the very top of it. The person, started just telling you about the South Bronx. Went into Jonas Bronx. Went into, how the Bronx became the Bronx. Or at least, and it says the South Bronx too. I mean, it talks about the whole Bronx, but it focuses on the South Bronx in particular. A lot of little history there, and as because we are the keepers of the rec room too at 1520 Sedgwick. So as our, as curators and keepers of the rec room, as instructors and teachers in that area, even though it's the West Bronx, we got to know this. We got to know the knowledge that's in this about the Bronx, about how it came to be, its history. South Bronx, on top of that, its particular history. West Bronx, Morris Heights, its particular history. Why Morris? Who is Morris? All of this type, or the Morris family, actually, as the book explains. And so so I mentioned that this is another good one. Okay. It's just funny. This is at the end because this is actually going to begin our study today. But here we are, Boogie Down Predictions. Boogie Down Predictions. And of course, a play on Boogie Down Productions, I would think. But Boogie Down Predictions. It's not really, it says hip hop time and Afrofuturism. It's not really about predictions or prophecy in that way. It's actually a nice history of hip hop. Not a lot of little points that were brought up within this book explaining hip hop. And I thought this was really good as well. This is really a nice read as well by Roy Christopher, Boogie Down Predictions. Just started reading this as well. And it just so happens that these books, South Bronx Rising, this one, and the other one, is they all kind of go together with the read that I'm actually getting into. I'm getting into like a all around, not a curriculum, but a study, like a teaching script that we're going to really get into beginning in 2024. Probably around April or May, like that, but probably April, so we can get prepared for Hip Hop Appreciation Week in May. But April, we'll start the classes. And so I'm preparing now for what's important to know. Hip hop has a lot of information about it, and thank God for that. But there's only certain pieces that you need to know. And there's an A, there's a B, there's a C, there's a D, there's a 1, you learn this first, you learn this second. So we're getting that together right now. These are some of the books that I'm reviewing. And I'm going to bring up others as I review them. But these here, I'm actually reviewing. And I thought they were pretty good as reads. So I bring them to the Temple of Hip Hop in that sense. So today we're talking about prophecy. And it's funny, Son One was in the at the temple, taking part in that barbecue session going on out there, but he was in the parking lot. And that parking lot is very interesting in terms of the prophecy of the Temple of Hip Hop. Now, of course, we are a temple for hip hop. We're not a record company for hip hop or a clothing company or, this kind of thing. We're a temple for hip hop. We're not even a college, although we do have a school. We're not that. We are a temple for hip hop. And so as a temple for hip hop, we do explore the spiritual aspects of hip hop, the philosophical aspects of hip hop as well, the mystical aspects of hip hop. For us, this is how we got here. So we don't really have a question or doubt that the ancestors walked with us. There's no doubt for us. We know this. We live in this reality, and this reality has certain effects, it produces certain effects for the one that lives in this reality. Others that don't live in this reality can't experience this. But those that live in a mystical reality, a spiritual reality, you know that there are certain little things going on, and they're little, they're really big, but when you have to share spiritual reality with material reality, you have to now ask yourself, you know, what are you going to put more attention upon? The material world and its demands on you, or the spiritual world and its demands on you? Most people, because the five senses don't detect the spiritual world, and they don't see an immediate harm by ignoring the spiritual world, they tend to lean toward the material world. That's here and now. That's sight, touch, taste, hearing, smell. That's bills. That's, you know, I got to eat to survive. That kind of stuff. So you tend to deal with that real quick and forget. And that's the key word, you know, forget your soul. Forget your spiritual nature. And so I talk about prophecy, or the theme of this talk here is about prophecy. Because foresight is an ability of the soul. Memory can always deal with the past. But neurologists don't even know where memory is in the brain. Right when they say it's here, it's not there. In fact, some neurologists, or there are hundreds of cases, if not thousands, I would say hundreds of cases, that cite that when people were brain dead, they still saw themselves and remember everything that was going on. And the key word here is remember. They come back to their bodies, or their brain comes back alive, and the doctor says, you were brain dead for, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. Your heart stopped. You were dead for 5 minutes. You come back and say, I remember everything. You were here. I was there. This one said this. There are hundreds of neurological, scientific cases of this occurring with people. Something about either the brain itself, and I say that I put a question mark on that, because if the brain is dead, there's no brain itself. It's not producing. Or do we not know enough about the brain to explain this kind of phenomenon? Now, most will say, not most, but the ancients will say, most of the ancients will say, that memory is in the soul. Memory is not in the brain. Memory is in the soul. You carry memories with you from one life to another. Those that understand reincarnation, you carry this with you. And you don't remember everything. Like, you don't consciously remember everything. But what you remember, I'll put it this way. You only remember what you need to remember. And that rule, that law of nature, you only remember what you need to remember, also applies to the many lives that you have lived. And that memory of past lives, even of past ages, meaning your memory of yourself at 2 years old, your memory of yourself at 10 years old, your memory of yourself now at 20 years old, this kind of thing. That memory is now part of your character. There are things that were established when you was a child that you're still doing right now, but it's just such a part of you that you don't even think about it no more. It's just part of you. Like walking. There was a time you couldn't walk. You was crawling. Think about that. You're somewhere in you, you remember when you were crawling. Somehow, you stood up and started walking. And that had to be a new experience at some point in your life. You had to say, wow, this is weird, walking. But you were so young and so ready to live, these questions didn't even come up. You just knew I have to walk. Well, character and culture operate in the same way, where there are certain things that we are just doing that we forgot we learned to do. Like English, like speaking English, or speaking period, really. But let's just say speaking English. There was a time you could not speak English. There was a time you couldn't speak it. And there was a time when you learned A, B, C, F. No, go back. A, B, C, D, E. Okay. A, B, G. No, let's go back. You went through that. You went through all of that. Okay. 1 + 1 = 2. See, you don't think about it now. You don't remember the day, the actual day. Somebody told you 1 + 1 = 2. And look at the word, 1. You had to learn that. What is a plus? Learn that. Here's that 1 again. And what is an equal? And a 2? When you were very young, these are the symbols and letters and numbers and shapes that were put in your mind. And now you see your reality through these symbols, through these letters, through these shapes, through these numbers. And that's not what reality actually is. Letters, shapes, numbers. These things are the symbols of reality. They're the names that this English culture has placed on reality. It is not reality. The word cat, C-A-T, is not what that being is. We apply the word cat, or dog. Okay, so you say dog. D-O-G is not what that being is. It's not a D, it's not an O, it's not a G, it's not a dog. It's none of that. What is that being? Like, what is it in French? In English, it's a dog. That being in English is a dog. That being in French is something else. In Spanish is something else. In a variety of Asian languages, African languages, that same being that we call a dog is called other things in other cultures, and even seen in other ways. We can't imagine eating a dog, grabbing a dog, chop its head off in its arms, and just cook it. Boil it to get the hair. You know how you do a chicken. Somewhere on the planet, somebody eating a dog, seasoned up, probably tastes pretty good with rice and beans. Your culture is determining, though, what's real for you, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And when you look for your original indigenous culture, You got to be willing to accept the eating of dog. Because in a Western colonial culture, which is what we're living in, English colonial culture, whatever they was detesting, ooh, that's wrong, that's evil, that's savage, that's whatever. Whatever that was to them was your culture. If you're not English, okay, and I mean even with other Europeans, okay, we just picking English today because that's what we speak. But there's a whole culture behind this language that we speak, and if you're serious about arriving back at your original culture or even understanding your original spirituality, you're going to have to question the language you speak, because the language you speak is also producing the images in your mind of the reality that you're experiencing. If you spoke another language, you would see a different reality. And Einstein proves this in the theory of special relativity. Einstein points this out, where we're all not seeing, we're not experiencing time the same way, all of us. We're not experiencing space the same way. Each of us are experiencing time and space in our own unique way. Imagine that. Your reality is not my reality. My reality is not yours. Yet it is. We all got to breathe air. We need that sunlight, drink that water. We all have 2 arms, 2 legs, Okay, this is what it is. There's a certain reality, yes. But we also have fingerprints that only apply to us, and retinas in the eye that only unique to you only. This is interesting when looking at cultures, and I'm bringing this up as a preface to prophecy, because to really see your culture, and in this case, we're talking about hip hop. We're talking about hip hop as an ancient culture. Outside of race, outside of class, gender, all of that. Outside of that, those social constructs, outside of the letters and the numbers and the names and the symbols and shapes, if you can think like this, outside of that lies the true reality of things. And the true reality of hip-hop, your culture, rests outside of the language that you're speaking. You're using hip-hop, the original culture, to manipulate the language that you're speaking. That's how we could rap. We can use English. We could be taught English, and then we take it and go, whatever. I'll keep on bringing it and singing it, We take the language and throw it around in our own minds and in our own mouths because we can. And imagine the people who are supposed to be the inventors of the language, they can't do it. So it's like, not only do we show our superiority, and I say that humbly, but not only do we show our superiority over the colonists, that even if you force us to speak your language and take our language away, we're still superior at speaking your language than you are. Think about that. So you got to take a look at, anybody who could rap is using a superior style of speak. Those who do graffiti art are doing a superior style of calligraphy. This is not you write A, B, C. No, you zeke that A and put the B in the C. And, oh no, how is this going on? No, there's something else happening. That this English thing is trying to supersede or trying to get on top of, like the way they built their churches on the same spots as our temples. is the same way the English language is trying to, be overlord or trying to set itself up on top of our original language. And our original language was not a spoken language at all. It was a feeling. And if you had the feeling, you was in the crew, you was part of the group. This is hip hop. See, you got to remember a time or go back in yourself. Like I said, get out of the shapes. If you can think like this, get out of the shapes. Like I said, the numbers, the shapes, this, that, and the other. In fact, try to think about the type of person, the type of being before mathematics, before the concept of counting. What was that being doing and thinking? Because mathematics comes from beings that can't count. You didn't hear me. Speech is created by those who could not speak. Meaning that on Monday, we couldn't speak. Or on Monday, we were going, on Monday, we was going, bum, bum. Something happened on Tuesday. And now on Wednesday, we're going bam, bam. And bam, bam means bread. It not means, but bam, the sound bam, bam. When I say bam, bam, you think bread. When I say bam, bam, you think bread. Bam, 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 bam. That is ancient. Okay, ancient. But who are you on Monday? Wednesday, you saying bam, bam. Tuesday, something happened, because Monday, you was going bum, 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 bum. Somehow, this bum, 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 whoever that person was, somehow figured out bam, bam. And we're going to apply it to this. Now, the children that come after that, bam, bam, the kids just grow up knowing bam, bam. They don't know, they don't even know what that is. There may be some vestiges of it around town, but we don't talk like that. We talk like this, bam, bam. Give me the bam, bam. Even the word gimme or give me, all of this. Before these words came into existence, there was a mind that existed without these words or without this technique. Existed without this technique. So what is that mind? The mind that creates mathematics is not relying on mathematics for reality. The mind that creates writing is not relying on writing for reality. They're relying on reality. And when you rely on reality, you can do things like invent writing. But now everybody else who only knows of writing loses out on reality. They don't know the original source. They can't access it. Writing is now the source. Letters, numbers, shapes, these things become the source of reality. And they're not. Like your name. Whatever your name is it really you? This is why it's so important for you to pick a name, that really exemplifies who you are. not some given name, some slave name, some old what, no, name yourself based on who you know yourself to be, but you got to know yourself to name yourself. And this alone used to be a process where you didn't even get a name until you knew yourself. You may have gotten a substitute name, but at some point in your life, you had to come out the woods like, I am. Well, this mind state is what I want to put you in first. The mind that can see outside of letters, numbers, shapes, symbols, concepts like time, space. Think about this. Our ancestors did not approach reality like this. These are all constructs and ideas that are being put on us, and it's controlling how you see things. It's controlling what you think you can do. This is why ignorance of these concepts is what actually freed us. It was those who dropped out of school that created hip hop. Hip hop was not created in school. It was the character that said, man, this is bullshit, is what created hip hop. Now, if you want to be truthful to the kids and serious to the kids, of course, we are not advocating that you drop out of any school, okay? That's not what the message is. But if you can maintain your maturity here and really look at the truth, and you look at a young kid and they say, I really want to be successful at hip hop. I got a little rhyme skill. I got a little breaking skill. I got a little DJ, and I can draw a little. I think I can do this. I'm coming to you, elder, asking, how do I do this? And we're going to tell them, well, stay in school. That's a lie. First of all, that's a lie. And it's not good advice, especially if you know that you succeeded without that. Now, of course, education and knowledge is what you need, but that's not always in school. I talk about the Brooklyn Public Library all the time. I was just there. Shout out to April Silvers as well. But I was just there explaining to a crowd of young people how I was just like that. I walked right into Brooklyn. I was homeless, sleeping in Prospect Park, which was across the street. And I would come over to the Brooklyn Public Library and read. And I'd be reading, not for knowledge per se. I was trying to build myself. I knew that I would be in the world. Like I had already made a decision and an affirmation that said, I'm going to be the greatest MC ever. But if you're going to make an affirmation like that, like I used to say, I'm going to travel the world. And I knew I was. I said, I'm going to be all over the world. I'm going to travel the world. So I would go to the Brooklyn Public Library and read up on places that I'd never been. I used to do that. Read up on places I'd never been, but I'd read up on them. And even other countries, not other countries, other states. I would read up on Florida, read up on this and that. That's why when I finally, made records and stuff, I'd go to these towns, people be amazed. I'd be like, yeah, the history of this is this is this. Because I already read up, I already made an affirmation in my mind that I was going to be there, and I backed it up with the free library in Brooklyn and underlined the word free. Can I say it again? Free. I walked in, put down a book, sat there. Nobody interrupted me. Nobody said nothing. I read the book. You take that knowledge and you apply it to yourself and to your conversation. And suddenly you find yourself in the places that the conversation is leading you to. Now, I say all of that to bring your mind back to the person or the being that does not rely upon symbols of reality to see what something is. And some things don't need labels. Some things are what they are because of their actions, their existence. This is a different language. This is a different way to see. And when you see things in this way, you also can see the future. You see time differently, past, present, and future. In fact, there is no past, present, or future. It's all right now. And that's how you can tell the future, because it's here with you now. It's not like you go somewhere. It's a different sight that can see the whole thing. And I hope you understand what I'm saying. It's hard to articulate this kind of sight, but you see the whole thing, and it's not a sight with these two eyes. It's a mind sight. It's the way your soul sees that sees past, present, and future as one thing. In fact, even as I speak to you right now, I am speaking in the future. I mean, I'm recording this. Somebody might be watching it in the future, and so on and so on. But beside the recording, I am speaking in the future right now. There's an aspect of me that is already in the future. I am speaking to my past right now. Right now, I'm speaking to it. And so this idea of prophecy doesn't always go in one direction, meaning foresight. It's really about existing outside of time and space, or being able to step outside of time, space, words, numbers, symbols, shapes. Step outside that, be able to step outside that, and now look at the situation. And you will see what it is. And once you know what it is, then you know where it's going. And once you know where it's going, because of what it is, what you know what it has to do. That's the word. Because you know what it is, you know what it has to do. That's the kind of foresight that hip hop affords us. Knowing the existence of something tells you where it's been and what it has to do. Some call this history, if you know where it's been, and foresight or prediction, because you know what it has to do. You know what it's going to do. So prophecy is also cultural. You see according to your values and your beliefs. And look at this, because even if you could see outside of numbers and shapes and so on, you still got to practice, because whatever you're seeing is still based on those numbers and shapes. You're still, in fact, can you only see vibrations? Can you develop the sight to see only character and characteristics? Not the bodies that cover these, but just the character. Like you say, dog. Can you see only one dog? Like there's one thing that a dog is. There's a character to a dog, to a cat, to birds. Like to all cats, from tigers to a kitten in, somebody's house. From lions to, there's something standard about that being. Can you zero in on that and develop a landscape, a mental map based on only the character of the being? This is how you get to see outside of everything in front of you. Talking about this Western English language and so on. I hardly understand how people can even say they're spiritual speaking English. Or should I say relying on English? We all speak English. Not we all. If you're in the United States, predominantly your world is governed by English language. But unless you are bringing something to the language, to actually rely on English language for your spirit, to rely on English culture to interpret your spirituality. This is why people don't really have the enlightenment or express the enlightenment that they are supposed to. 20 years in the church, you still a racist? Damn. 30 years, you the minister. You still can't keep your hands off the young people. Damn. It's like it's only words, it's only symbols to you. The true reality of your being is something else. And this is why when indigenous people are forced to accept other people's religions, it's the indigenous community that brings the holiness to the religion. Those who force those people into the religion, they continue to live in their own criminal ways. They still live like that. And you can see it too. This is not a judgment. Maintain your maturity. This is the truth. This is the truth. It's not the religion that makes us holy. It's us that make the religion holy. We have to bring the holiness to whatever word or concept or symbol, title, whatever it is, we, the real being, real life, has to bring that into manifestation. Or it's nothing. Or it's nothing. What are any of these titles, really? Really? What are any of these titles? Nothing. Illusions. It is a being that has to excite or bring to life all of these titles, these names, these symbols, these numbers. But can you remember a time when you didn't count, you didn't read, you didn't write? You probably didn't even speak. You were pure in that moment of mind where you didn't read, didn't write, didn't speak, didn't count. Can you go back to that? And the idea is in modern times, not so much to go back to it because it's a tough exercise. I've been practicing for many years. And it's still tough because you live in the society. You're in the prison that you're trying to escape. You're in it. And so the escape is the character of your ancestors is the escape. All of this, like I said, no one is perceiving reality the same as someone else. So even though we may live in an English prison, speaking language, speaking culture, you are the originator of culture, of language itself. You are the one that didn't speak on Monday, and then Tuesday, and Wednesday we got speech. They, the colonists, only has speech. This is why when they gave us their language and said, speak English, don't speak your native tongue. Shout out the native tongue. But don't speak your indigenous language. You can be killed for speaking your African language, Native American, indigenous languages. You can be killed. Don't write. Don't pass on through language your culture. and look at it, all they had was language, because they never had reality. All they had was language. So they figured our culture is kept together by language. Our culture, we are defined by language, symbols, numbers, science, and technology. We are defined by that. So we're going to take your numbers, your symbols, this is the colonists talking to the invaded, to the indigenous, to the first. We're going to deprive you of your language, because that's what we think is going on here. And so you can't speak your language, we'll kill you, we'll rape you, we'll hang you, we'll burn you, we'll torture you if you speak your language. So now we speak English. But guess what? This language was never our culture, or it never defined our culture. We are the originals that existed before language, before all that, before organized language, before writing, before mathematics, before any of that. We existed. And if you can go back to the mind state that was conscious and fully aware, because you can't be conscious and fully aware, or should I say this, you cannot be conscious and fully aware and then come up with mathematics or a system of writing. Who first scribbled something on something and said that means something? That's not the thing, but every time we see this symbol, we're going to think of the thing. Imagine the mind. Imagine the day that happened. So many things in your head, so many things going on, and you say, we're going to carve this symbol, and that symbol represents. Represent? What do you mean represent? The real thing is right there. No. This is the representation of that real thing. And you start referring to the representation and not the real thing. And generation after generation, we forget, through war, through murder, through this, that, and the other, terrorism. Now you speak in English, and you defining yourself based on their symbols, their letters, their this, their that, and you forgot yourself. Forgot your original abilities. Forgot that you are part of the originals. And again, this has nothing to do with race. There's something about humanity that produces beings that think like this. Hey, come on. It's not about race. This is a bloodline. And it's throughout the entire of humanity, because remember, these are the people who got humanity started. These are the people I'm talking about. We call them Hip-hopians. Ancient Hip-hopians. Homo hip-hopiensis. Those beings who did exist, somebody had to exist before mathematics. And those who existed before mathematics are the ones that made mathematics. Even if you're not the originator of mathematics, and the originator of mathematics is walking around Africa, and they sit you down and say, would you like to know? And they say, yes. Right there, that acceptance, yes, I will, means you're about to get something you didn't have before. You're about to see something you never saw before. This is the mind state that can see outside of time and outside of space and can appear anywhere, because your reality, what you are basing your reality on, is the truth. Outside of names, titles, shapes, numbers, symbols, all of that is not reality. That is symbols of reality. Where's reality, though? Where's the truth? Well, the truth does not have to speak. The truth doesn't have to count. The truth does not have to be represented. The truth is the truth. And you either have awareness of the truth or you're unaware of the truth. But this is the truth. There it is. Outside of all this representation, what is it really? What is the character? Not the cause, the character. What is the being? What is the intent? So I mentioned that prophecy is cultural. You see according to your values and your beliefs. So only we can make our prophecies real if we keep seeing them. And that's what happened with the Temple of Hip Hop at 55 Ludlow Street, Newark, New Jersey. You see according to your values. And also I have a note here, I'm reading from my notes here, that we noticed this because Western seers, you know, people like Nostradamus and Edgar Casey and others, they predicted the future. They could see the future. They could see well into the past, especially Edgar Casey. But none of them predicted hip hop. Think about that for a minute. Now, I did come across some talk years ago in the 90s. I did come across some talk that Edgar Casey was talking about an urban culture that was going to spring up and be known all over the world. There was somebody that brought that to my attention. I never saw the evidence. I never heard no tape, nothing. But my point here is that all of these seers of the future never saw us. And hip hop is huge in the world. But somehow you could predict Hitler, you could predict even up to 9/11. Dudes like, yo, Nostradamus saw 9/11. You didn't see hip hop? And what about all these predictions? All of these foresights and prophecies? Why they never see us? And what's interesting is that we're here. We're here. And we're in reality, and we're here. We're part of everybody's reality. But yet you didn't see this. You didn't see this coming. Prophecy is based on your cultural beliefs and values. And a lot of this is, a lot of prophecy has to do with confirming or making a decision about your future. Not some mystical, and I can't even say mystical because the mystical is real. So I said, not some fantastic, illusionary version of fortune telling. That's not what we're talking about here. Yo, in 3 years, you're going to get $200. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about real foresight, the ability of one's being to transcend time and thus be able to see what we call the future in one's present. Confirming prophecy then is cultural. And if you don't believe in your own prophecies, then they are nil. They are done. This is what keep the Sabbath. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. You hear that? Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. It's not that the Sabbath is holy. It's that you keep it holy by remembering it, by dealing with yourself in this way. Every week, we're going to stop and discuss God or our spiritual understanding of ourselves every week. So if you don't believe in your own principles, you destroy your own divinity. If you don't believe in your own prophecies, when they come true too, by the way. Now, I'm talking about at the beginning. If you don't believe in your own prophecies, which means you don't believe in your own prophets. Meaning like somebody stands up and says, we can achieve this if we do this. I can see it. This is going to happen. We should prepare. Oh, man, who you think you are? I mean, get up out of here. Oh, you, wee. Now you suffer the results of that. Nobody wants to talk about the suffering. We only want to talk about the victory and the prize, but we don't want to talk about when we neglected teachings and now we're living the results of them. Our children are suffering because we didn't do what we were supposed to do in the 1990s. That's why we're suffering today. Nobody wants to talk about that. It's just Black Lives Matter today. But when NWA said, fuck the police, when Ice-T put out Colors, when KRS said his sound of the police, who listened though? These were not just records or entertainment. We told you it was edutainment. We told you, NWA told you, it's reality rap. Nobody else is talking. Chuck D said it, rap music is the black CNN. This is what's going on in our hood. Did anybody care? No. And I'm not saying anybody meaning in the white community. I'm talking about in the black community. Okay, did black leadership listen and say, wait a minute, these young people are talking something. Let's investigate. Let's start putting some rules down. Let's start doing this now before it becomes out of hand. No, it took another 10, 20 years. And then the epidemic of police shootings because of the cameras that were now available. This has been just police been shooting people, killing people, hanging, setting people up, robbing people, raping people. Been doing it. No phone though. No camera. Started with Rodney King, y'all know. Right from there. And even then, nah, that's not what it is. We all looking at it. It's like, nah, that's not what, that's the insanity we dealing with. And you can't allow yourself to be caught up in that English colonial insanity. And this is if you're English too. You can't get caught up in that. Now everybody else has been colonized to speak English. We can't get caught up in that either. We have to be able to return to the character that didn't need to speak, didn't need to count, didn't need to rely on symbols to exist in reality. You just exist in reality and you move in reality, which has no speech. It is intent. It is the arms and fingers of intention and character. This controls reality. Return to that being. Return to that spirit being. The being that sees without these eyes, can hear without ears, can speak without the tongue, the inner being. It doesn't need all this outward. It exists. And it exists. Its arms and legs are intentions and character. Its clothing is love, mercy, forgiveness, charity, That's what it's clothed in. Are you of that civilization? That's what we call hip-hopia. Are you there? This has nothing to do with race, nothing to do with gender, nothing to do with age, nothing to do with class, nothing to do with nothing but the bloodline of the first beings. Do you have the bloodline of the first beings who would be called the Christ or the Mahdi or the Buddha, the enlightened ones? See, everybody want to say they enlightened until the character has to be proven. Everyone wants to say, our God is with me, I got God, until the character of a God has to be proven. And this is the spiritual practice. Every day you get a chance to be God. And not in no egotistical, I want to be God. No, you are God. You are of divinity. Act like it. But the only way for you to act like you're divine is to step outside of colonialism, imperialism, and capitalism. You don't want to hear it, though. And that's the point. So nobody gets spirituality, because what we want is to satisfy our emotions. That's what we want. Satisfy the emotions, and that's it. Make me feel good about my past immaturity. I did stupid stuff when I was young. I did stupid stuff when I was middle-aged and so on. I'm guilty about it now. I'm giving up inspirational living toward myself. So now I need some help. Can you help me? You're righteous. So if you tell me I'm good, I'm going to believe it because you're good. At least I think you are. And so if you tell me I'm good, you're good. What? Yes, just tithe, pay dues, give me your money. Okay, give me your bread, and I'll tell you that you good. Think about that. Think about that. I'm not even going to get into the Catholicism in the Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church, how they was charging people to you rape somebody, you could be forgiven of that for $3.95. This is no bullshit. Okay, for $5 you can kill or be exonerated of murder. They were charging. This is what Martin Luther and the whole Reformation, this whole thing was about, like the corruption of the church, charging people for salvation. We still dealing with it today. It's just not so blatant, like it's just not blatant like it was before, but now it's just your belief. Remember what I said? Certain things you just keep doing, and finally it's just you. You don't even remember when it happened. You don't remember. It's you now. So what is the you now? The you now is these ministers in the church. You either look at this. You say they're bullshit in the church. There's ministers. They all bullshit. But I still believe that the reason I think they bullshit is because I believe in their divinity, and they're not living up to their divinity. So I think they're bullshit. If a dude was in church and you knew he was bullshit, you would just go along with it. Because you say he's bullshit. This whole shit is bullshit. So if I'm here, I'm bullshit too. We all here bullshitting. More, with no disrespect to comedy. But that's what we all come in here to laugh, okay? He's bullshitting, I'm bullshitting, we all bullshit. Okay, now let's get these jokes on. Nothing serious here. You can't get serious here. This is comedy. We came here to laugh. Well, this is the same with religion and spirituality. If the comedian don't make you laugh, you diss him because you came here to laugh. He tell a whack ass joke. You're like, get the fuck, you wasting my time. Like imagine a comedian, you came there to laugh, and the comedian start telling you some serious shit. You like, yo, I didn't come here for this. Same thing with spiritual leaders. You really believe that these people are enlightened. That's the first mistake. That's the first mistake. You look at these people, and I'm not judging anybody. Again, maintain your maturity. We're only speaking the truth. It don't matter what come out your mouth. Your character has to match these symbols, words, so on, because character is what's real. That's what's real. Intent is what's real. Don't matter even what you did. What's the intent? What did you mean? What was you trying to do? That's the truth, not even what you did. Some people start out thinking some horrible things to do to people, and it turns out good. Is it really good? Because the intent was to harm, but it came out good. But the intent was to harm. Some people start out with good intentions and wind up harming so many people. But was the intent to good? Yeah, the intent was good. That's the truth, really. The intent was good, and I came out and harmed everybody. This intent was evil from the beginning, but it helped everybody. You gotta look at the intent, and then look at the discipline. Look, credit cards. Evil from the beginning, from the very inception. But it helped everybody. You can't deny that the credit system doesn't help everybody. But some will argue that usury and the credit system, capitalism in general, is evil from the beginning. And you can prove it. But capitalism helps. It helps. So rise to a higher level of intelligence where you can see all of it working together. But see, the key word is all of it. You can't just see English language and say, I'm going to see my world through English language. A cat is a cat, and a dog is a dog, and a this is a this, and a white is white, and black is black. European is this only, and Asian is that only, and da-da, and da-da-da. You see in your world like that, you're not going to make it very far. And many people who claim to be spiritual see their world just like that. You still see in your world through English colonial culture. How can you be spiritual? How? How can you be spiritual looking at any symbol? Any. Spiritual means you have the truth. You're at the source. And you speak from that place. You live from that source place. So we look at the character of the ancestors, and we see that if you are first, if you are primal, the primitive, the originator, you have no past. You are more concerned with your future than with your past. You're more concerned with survival than with what you did to survive. Colonial education got us believing that if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. And we understand that. We understand if you don't know where you've been, if you don't know your history, you don't even have an identity. We understand that. But we also understand Nietzsche as well, philosopher Nietzsche. He went crazy too, by the way. But we understand him in his sane state, where he says every once in a while, you got to forget things. In order to move forward, you have to forget some stuff. And this is the problem with history, is that nobody wants to forget. And it's like, what do you mean forget? To start a new nation, that new nation has to forget whatever it came from. All those people have to forget their previous whatever they were at to start a new nation. And the word is forget, not just not associate with or change your name. No, eventually, even hip hop's children may forget that they were African, that they may have been European, or that they may have been Asian or whatever, African American. You know, they may forget because our doctrine doesn't recognize race. We recognize breaking, MC, and graffiti art and DJ. That's what we recognize. Ethnicity to us is your talents, not your skin complexion or even your language. Your ethnicity is breaking. Your ethnicity is MCing, is graffiti art, is DJing, beatboxing. That's your ethnicity in our culture. That's the equivalent of black, white, red, yellow, so yeah, whatever these colors are. No, there's a community of B-boys. There's a community of MCs. There's a community of graffiti writers. There's a community, and each one of them should have a representative. This is further work with the temple, but each one of them should have a representative that sits at the council of the Temple of Hip Hop and can help that community. Our resources go into these communities to help these ethnicities, the break-in ethnicity, the graffiti art ethnicity. This is what we hope to do in the future. But our ancestors were forward thinkers, not backwards thinkers. Forward ever, backwards never. This used to be a revolutionary shout for Black Power and really the All African People's Revolutionary Party, headed by Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, formerly known as. This was his shout: forward ever, backwards never. And I always understood a man who speaks history and says, if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going. He always spoke about the magnificence of African history. But in his final analysis, he said, forward ever, backwards never. And we learned that the true spirit of our ancestors is to move forward. Survival and growth and development is more important than trying to remember what we did or go back to what we had in our present. We got to get back to, no, let's go forward to. And so we don't call ourselves descendants. We call ourselves ascendants. So some predictions, some prophecies are like decisions or affirmations. You decide, we're going to do this. And it's like an affirmation. But when it comes true, it's prophecy. It's the fulfillment of a prophecy. You saw something. You made an affirmation on it and a decision to move in this direction. Sometimes prophecy is decided upon. Prophecy can also come unconsciously. This is another form of prophecy. Like, for instance, as an example, when I said, because rap isn't even 20 years old, 50 years down the line, you can start this. Because we'll be the old school artists. That's prophecy. Now, that's unconscious prophecy, because when I said it, I wasn't thinking about hip hop's 50th anniversary. No, I was not. This is 1988, and I was actually rhyming to Melly Mel at Latin Quarters at that time. And the whole rhyme, I'll just say it to put it into the record, not the whole rhyme, but half of it here. I'll start off where it goes, no heart, Because of that, a lot of groups fell apart. Rap is still an art, and no one's from the old school, because rap is still a brand new tool. I said no one's from the old school because rap on a whole isn't even 20 years old. 50 years down the line, you could start this, because we'll be the old school artists. And even in that time, I'm saying rhymes, a brand new style, rootless and wild, running around, spending money, having fun. Because even then, I'm still number one. And that was said unconsciously as a 50th anniversary, but it was also said also as an affirmation, because I knew that I was going to be old school. I knew this. There's no explanation for it or whatever. I knew, and I would say throughout my entire career, I would tell people so that we have no misunderstandings about the longevity of KRS-ONE. I don't brag about it. I praise God for every day that I can wake up. But I knew then, because of what I was studying, I'm studying the science of immortality. I'm studying the science of kings. So you have to think long range. Yeah, we in there. Yeah. That was another one. Blastmaster KRS is thinking long range. I said it then. I said it on Still Number One, and countless other songs where we talked about, we will be here forever. Do you understand that? Forever. Forever and ever and ever and ever, we will be here forever. Get what I'm saying? These are affirmations throughout my career that I saw of myself because of what I'm studying. But it was also unconscious, because that idea of 50 years down the line, what? Then you could say we old school. So here now at the 50th anniversary of hip hop, now we are officially old school. Yes, we are. And everyone celebrated and we confirmed it, and this is what it was. Some things are said unconscious. So I want to make that clear in terms of the unconsciousness of prophecy and prediction. We're going to go over that as well with what Herc said in the gospel of hip hop. Or before I get to that, what Nas said, another Nas prediction was, imagine walking down the street smoking weed with no cops harassing. Imagine, because at the time in New York City, marijuana was illegal. Dudes were going to jail for years for smoking a joint. This was for years this was going on. Injustice. Nas said at the height of that, when stop and frisk was going on in New York, Nas, and shout out to Lauryn Hill, did Curtis Blow's record over, If I Ruled the World. And in that record, Nas points out, imagine walking down the street smoking weed with no cops harassing. If I ruled the world, that's what it would be. So I guess Nas rules the world, because his affirmation was, if I ruled the world, you'd be able to smoke weed, walk down the street and smoke weed in New York. We walking down the street smoking weed in New York. Now, if this did not happen, turn this thing off, because you're listening to a liar. But if it did happen, why you fronting? You know I say this every week, right? Because this is how hard it is. This is real spirituality. And this is how hard it is to really get your mind out of colonialism, period, okay? Colonial captivity. Get your mind out of that and begin to see the truth for real. What are you going to put more emphasis on? The illusion or reality? Nas said on a record, and he recorded it with Lauryn Hill. He said, if I ruled the world, you'd be smoking weed, walking down the street smoking weed with no cops harassing. Not only did he predict that that would happen, he affirmed that that's what he wanted to have happen. Now, we're walking down the streets of New York smoking weed with no cops harassing. In fact, New York has dispensaries. You're not hearing me, and you're not seeing the magnificence of your culture. I don't see any other music genre, hip hop in lowercase. I don't see any other music genre predicting the future like that. And now maybe in the past, I don't know, maybe rock and roll might have somebody. But no, hip hop? Nah. Even if somebody did come out with a record that predicted smoking weed with no cops or asses somewhere in music history, we never heard of it. And even if we heard of it, and even if it exists, first, even if it exists, and then, even if we heard of it, Lauryn Hill and Nas's record was the biggest record that everybody heard. That's the record that the world heard. That was the big hit. You can't deny these facts. And so if we can't deny the facts, we got to get with it. You got to put the fact on you and start living from the fact. If this is the truth, you have to start living from the truth. The truth is, Nas predicted that this is what was going to go down, and it went down. That's prophecy. Now I'm pointing out the levels of prophecy that we're dealing with, the level of prediction that we're actually dealing with, because our being as hip hop is really outside of time. So we could speak in the present and also be speaking to the past and speaking to the future. Here we're just talking about speaking to the future. I'm not getting into your future self talking to your present self, or your present self being able to talk to your past, which your present self will be the future self of that past self. We're not going to get into that. Time reversal symmetry, that what you do in the present affects the past and the future. In fact, the future and the past is affecting the present. So, Kool DJ Herc is my last example here. Let me grab the gospel of hip hop. Turn your gospel of hip hop, turn your gospel to page 526. If you have your gospel of hip hop, turn it to page 526. We're talking about prophecy. And this is the one piece here we should think about as well. Yeah, we need to talk about this because I'm going to talk here about prophecy and the prophecy that the Temple of Hip Hop is now in prophecy right now. But I'm going to start a ways back, because what was said in this meeting, turn to page 525, sorry. Turn to page 525, one page over, 525. What was said in this meeting? See, let me get this right. I'm alluding to the unconscious aspects now of prophecy. There is a conscious affirmation, affirming decision on prophecy, which says this is going to happen and we're going to work until it happens. And then, even as you said that, there is an unconscious part to that you don't even think about, but your intent, your character is also going out to do something as well. This is the unconscious part of your decisions and your affirmations and your visions. So I want to read this piece on 525. I'm at paragraph 168. I'm starting with a hip hop activist. His name was X-Man back in the day. And this dude laid out really what the Temple of Hip Hop is all about. and I'm going to read it to you here because we're talking about prophecy, and now I'm moving into the temple of hip hop's existence in its own prophecies right now. You've got to see this because otherwise you won't understand. You won't be able to keep up with the awareness that we are experiencing right now. So this is X-Men, and you'll notice that a lot of what I'm about to read here is what the temple of hip hop actually did. Now, I didn't see nobody else do this work, respectfully. I saw the temple of hip hop do this work. And so here's the work. And then hip hop activist X-Man said, quote, let me interject this one thing because I think for the most part, we've been dancing around this issue for real. And the issue, when it comes down to it, is how we acquire and maintain power. This is how we acquire and maintain power. And remember, this is the Meeting of the Minds, 1994. We're at the Schomburg Center in Harlem on 135th Street. And this is the first time all, if not, well, I wouldn't say all. Let me say the key founders and architects of hip hop met at this place to discuss hip hop as culture. We discussed there the formation of our society. This meeting did not happen before us, and this meeting really didn't happen after. Other kinds of meetings like this happened. We produced them, but no other meeting like this has ever happened. We took from this meeting and we built our temple, our principles, what we know hip hop to be about from this meeting. That's why I'm reading. That's why this meeting is transcribed into the gospel of hip hop. And this is it. And the issue, when it comes down to it, is how do we acquire and maintain power? Because that's what it comes down to. Let me say a couple of things. This is X-Men, man. In this professionalism piece, we don't want to confuse professionalism with white collarism. Because, you know, and not white people or white this, white collar, corporate ism. In this professionalism piece, we don't want to confuse professionalism with white collarism because those are two different and separate things. Professionalism means one that is proficient in a particular area and accepted by their peers. You see what I'm saying? So a doctor just can't go out and claim that he's a doctor. He has to go through a mental learning process and then still be accepted by his peers. And when we develop that kind of professionalism, it's going to weed out all the fakers anyway. Now stop here. We went over this last week where I discussed how people are just claiming themselves hip-hop teachers with no accreditation, no skills, no knowledge. Universities of all sorts, learning institutions are just offering hip-hop courses with nothing. They're just, this is what we think it should be. And this is why the Temple of Hip-Hop exists as well. Not only to check them on that, but to also offer a place where you can legitimize yourself, a place where you can actually learn from hip hop itself and not from a book or a documentary or from second, third, fourth hand information. The Temple of Hip Hop is first-hand information. We have organized first-hand information. So look at this, and this is where we get that attitude from. Right here in our gospel. A doctor just can't go out and claim that he's a doctor. He has to go through a mental learning process and then still be accepted by his peers. And when we develop that kind of professionalism, it's going to weed out all the fakers anyway. The second thing, we do need to come to a definition of hip hop that needs to be distributed. This was unheard of. That's why he's saying it. There was no definition to hip hop. No widely distributed. Now, I will say, though, that Zulu Nation did have peace, love, unity, and safely having fun as the principles or pillars of hip hop. But, and also, Zulu Nation codified b-boying, b-girling, MCing, DJing, and graffiti writing. Yes. I'm thinking, I got to think in my head right now, and they have specific ways of writing that as well. Breaking, MCing, graffiti are DJ knowledge and overstanding. That's original Zulu Nation, and shout out to Zulu Nation today for that. But even Zulu Nation is at this meeting. Africa Bambaataa and other members of Zulu Nation are at this meeting as well. And they too are nodding their head saying to what X-Man is saying here, because we all contributed. We all said something or added something to hip hop or this, that, and the other. But this is the first time that kind of all of the architects got together. This is the first time. So we agreed that, you can't just call yourself something. You got to go through a process. We all agreed that hip hop needed to be defined, and that definition needs to be distributed. Go over it again. Second thing, we do need to come to a definition of hip hop that needs to be defined. A definition of hip hop that needs to be distributed. We need to come to a collective decision on what hip hop is and define it in a way that gives some leeway. In other words, don't be so focused. Don't be so narrow that you define everybody out of it, but define it within a context that people who are down with it can fit into it some way, shape, or form. That is the birth of the 9 elements. That's the birth of our 9 elements, the definitions, based on this advice right here. We need a definition that's broad enough for a lot of people to get involved, but keeps the originators part of this. And the last thing is that we can't talk about power because what I don't want to see, because I'll just tell y'all what I don't want to see. I don't want to see the archive. I don't want to see that archive. Now imagine we're talking about building a museum for the first time. Setting an archive for the first time. This is all first, okay? And even, I'll shout out Jacqueline Hines in here because I transcribed and put her into history because she argued that she was the actual first person to incorporate a hip-hop museum and wanted the support of everyone, but was not getting it. Shout out to Harry Allen for Rhythm Cultural Institute, who's also documented here, who said for the first time, shouldn't we be digitally documenting hip-hop? So come back over here. I don't want to see that archive. I don't want to see that archive that has all of the history of hip-hop, but in the streets is not reflective of what went into that institution. And we don't want, and look at this, these are what museums are dealing with now, and I'm not going to call nobody's name, but hip-hop museums that don't follow this, okay, so we can't incriminate nobody, but we do. The Temple of Hip-Hop, this is our doctrine, okay? So when X-Man is saying, I don't want to see that archive, some archive that has all of the history of hip hop, but in the street, it's not reflective of what went into that institution. Hip hop as institution. You don't get no, it's sanitized. And we don't want hip hop or anything else to go the way of the dodo in the street, even though you have an archive that's sitting there. And the archive idea is the first step to that preservation. This is the first time this was said. The last thing is that we can't even talk about power in hip hop as if it is divorced from power and organization of young people. We can't talk about it because you can't play ball with one hand. I mean, you can try, and some people are good, but you will never be as efficient as being able to use both hands. You'll never be as effective. So if we're talking about serious, a political move, a social move, an economic move, then hip hop as an industry, as a forum, needs to also be about the political and economic and social organization of our people. If it's not about that, it's talking yin yang. That's it. And the whole room erupted into applause. And then the father of hip hop, Kool DJ Herc, spoke at this meeting. Quote, now this is where the prophecy comes in. And this is where the unconscious prophecy comes in. Herc didn't even know what he said when he said this, but we wrote it down. Quote, yo, check this out. Right now, the bottom line is about money. All right, money's going here, 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 and here. And it ain't concentrated in one place for hip hop to build this, build the society we're talking about. Herc said we need money to build this society, and hip hop's not concentrated in one place to build itself as a nation. We need somewhere, a hip hop complex itself, a large place that every artist who comes to New York, who somebody will have to come through there and perform. And that money goes somewhere for us, for whatever we want to do with it. It's about money. It's about money and what hip hop's money can do for community and for us, political wise. It's a force. It just hasn't been harnessed yet. And we trying to bring that shit under one fucking roof. That's all it is. We need somewhere that is hip hop with a big fucking parking lot. That's the prophecy. So the police ain't gonna come on horseback and chase us out of every fucking place where you can't get in. There gotta be some place like that in California, West Side, East Side, West Side, East Coast, East Coast, West Coast. Gotta have a big fucking complex. And whoever making money off of hip hop gotta be in that place. Otherwise, you can't go nowhere. That's how it gotta be. And it stops right there. Stop, end quote. Now let's unpack that. First, Herc says, money going here, 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 and here, and it ain't concentrated in one place for hip hop to build this, build its society, build its culture, build itself. That is why the temple of hip hop is there. That's why Hip-hopia needs to be built, our hip hop city, because that's where hip hop is. We're going to put hip hop in physical form in the earth. So therefore, those with physical resources, money, other material goods, and so on, You have a place that is actually hip hop, and you can place your money right here. When you place your money here with the temple of hip hop, you are placing your money on hip hop. And I don't say this in no ego way or in some schemy, please don't think that's what it is. It's a plan that we've been thinking about since 1994 about the building and protection of our culture. You can't keep saying, oh, hip hop's being exploited. Hip hop's billion-dollar culture. And we not get that $1 billion or stop the exploitation. Why does everybody else, how is everybody else making money off of hip hop except average hip hoppers? How can we be a $1 billion culture and hip hop's teachers are still struggling to survive? It's because we're disorganized. It's because we have not erected a temple for hip hop that says, or I should say, it's because we only now have erected an actual physical edifice, a temple for hip hop, where those that are making the billions on hip hop can give back to hip hop, tithe back to hip hop for the building of hip hop, for the sake of hip hop. This is what Kool Herc has suggested back in 1994 when we had this meeting. Let's go forward. We need somewhere a place. We need somewhere a hip hop complex itself, a large place that every artist who comes to New York, who is somebody, will have to come through there and perform. And that money goes somewhere for us for whatever we want to do with it. It's about money. Now look at this. That's going to happen anyway. The Temple of Hip Hop is beautiful, and the sound system is going to be crazy. So you're going to want to perform there. The same thing we did at hip hop's 50th anniversary is what's going to happen at the Temple of Hip Hop every weekend, if not 2-3 times a week. Our young people will have a platform to perform and become stars and valuable unto themselves. You don't have to sign to a record label. You don't have to go. You could go right to your temple, and our network across the globe is who you're going to be put in front of. And if you can make it through this network of real hip hop, you get your money. You get your notoriety. You get your fame and glory. And this is what we're looking to set up. So look, we need somewhere a complex, a hip hop complex itself. That's what the Temple of Hip Hop is. A large place. That's what the Temple of Hip Hop is. Let me go down here. Let's unpack this paragraph 178. I want you to see this because Kool Herc is not talking about money you put in your pocket. He's not talking about give me money. He's talking about harnessing hip hop's money. We have to harness hip hop's financial power. Otherwise, we're not a nation. We're not a culture. We don't have an economy. Right now, our economy is being siphoned and exploited by others who do have an economy. We have to create an economy for ourselves. And that's what this is about. It's a force. And look at how the gospel of hip hop, look at how we look at the money. It's about money and what hip hop's money can do for community. Look at this. It's about money and about what hip hop's money can do for community and for us political wise. It's a force. That's how you have to look at the money, as a force, not something for you to get rich, not pocketing money, not profiting, but as a force in politics and in community. And by the way, this is no more talk about, oh, the community, cops is this and the education is that and healthcare. No, if you got money, you fix the situation in your community. In your community. But if you poor and broke and don't have nothing, how are you supposed to fix the community? And that's real talk. We got to have some money, and we don't need to go begging people for money. Banks and the IMF and all these different people. We don't need to go beg them for no money. We are already a billion-dollar culture. We just don't have a fence around our fruits and our vegetables. We don't have a fence around our culture. And when we were supposed to have a fence around our culture, not no one, but 80% of rap music did not support. 80%. Only a small 20% of us got together and said, we got to do something for the future of hip hop. And we started the Temple of Hip Hop. Everyone else dissed us, called us a cult, all types of disrespectful, because we said this in 1994. We got to harness this money. We got to put some regulations on ourselves so that we can harness this money. We got to get some structure. We need a definition to who we are. This is our work. This is our work. That's why we don't put this on other people. And we don't expect them to rise to this. This is us. I'm talking to the Temple of Hip Hop. This is what we're supposed to be doing. This is what we are holding ourselves to. This is our responsibility. And so we're doing it. We're in the prophecy right now. Here's where the prophecy comes alive for us. It just hasn't been harnessed yet. Talking about this force. And we are trying to bring that shit under one fucking roof. You hear that? Bring hip hop under one roof. This was the goal. Out the mouth of the recognized father of hip hop. This was the vision. To bring hip hop under one roof. That everybody in hip hop can come to and contribute to hip hop. Raising our financial power so that we can do something for our community. That is the goal. That's the mission. Now that we've all become powerful and valuable, we need a roof now that we can bring that value into. That's all it is. We need somewhere that is hip hop. Now here's the prophecy. Here's how we know we're in the prophecy. We need somewhere that is hip hop with a big fucking parking lot. The minute I saw the track center and I saw the parking lot, I knew we was there. I said, this is it. This is the prophecy. This is it. And I went and I grabbed my gospel and I read this part right here. And to go forward with it, okay? You've heard me say this before, but this is the deeper piece to it. The franchising of the Temple of Hip Hop. It wasn't supposed to be one. Now look at how Kool Herc is saying it. Okay, he said we got to bring hip hop under one roof. But in the very next line, in the next paragraph, he says there got to be some place like that in California. He went right to California. Then he says, West Side, East Coast. West, East Coast, West Coast. And he's talking, so he's repeating words and so on. But look at this. Like in California, okay, so we go to California. West Side, we go to the west side of California. Then go back to the East Coast. Then go west. Then go back to the East Coast. Then go West Coast again. So this is how Herc has seen it. And by the way, this is unconscious. This is unconscious. He's talking. He's talking consciously, saying it's about money. It's about what hip hop's money could do for community. It's about this, it's about that. But he's also unconsciously, look at the stutter. And this is why we transcribed these words, not just translated them so you don't get and and No, we put in all of that is transcribed here. And look at it. Look at what the temple was meant to do. There got to be some place like that in California. So he already established it in New York. But he said there got to be a place like that in California. Then here's the spirit. West Side. Whatever that means. West Side of California. East Coast. So you look at this from a back and forth, and he don't even know he's saying this. This is transcribed and we're reading the words back. And when you read the words back in this unconscious state, you see it's a zigzag going back and forth. East Coast, West Coast, East Coast, West Coast, East. But he's saying it like this. A place like that in California, West Side, East Coast, West, East Coast, West Coast. Gotta have a big fucking complex. And whoever making money off of hip hop gotta be in that place. Notice how he said there's two places, but you gotta be in that place. That means also that wherever the temple of hip hop is, you don't have to just come to New York and as a pilgrimage. When we have temples in every city, you could go to any one and fulfill this prophecy. Gotta be in that place. Otherwise, they can't go nowhere. That's how it gotta be. Now that can't go nowhere. That's more gang language, territory where Kirk and the rest of us, these founders come from. But it's also spiritual talk because you won't have the respect unless you've been to the temple of hip hop in the years to come. And this is not us saying this. We know how cultures develop. We've seen this. So we know this is another form of prediction, another form of prophecy. You know, it's knowledge. As the temple rises and does good by its community, the community itself is going to say, well, where were you? Where are you? You claiming to be hip hop. We never seen you here at the temple of hip hop where hip hop is. And so let me just read this last part here. This is, I want to finish this out right here because this is after the transcription now. This meeting continued on for several more hours. However, at the conclusion of this groundbreaking meeting, it was clear to all that hip hop was more than just some good music and that it was time to organize culturally. It was here at this time that I began gathering the notes, documents, and other inspirational materials to create a solid strategy toward what we said as a community we wanted for ourselves as a group. This is where we began to seriously approach hip hop as an international culture. And it was here that we set our cultural direction as a unique, self-conscious group of people. This is what we, as a temple for hip hop, are loyal to. Again, this is what we, as a temple for hip hop, are loyal to. What was said at this divine meeting of the minds. There have been numerous other follow-up hip hop meetings, conferences, and summits since our 1994 meeting. However, the intentions of this first meeting are what the temple of hip hop remains most loyal to. The intent of this first meeting is what we remain most loyal to. These paragraphs are direct, unedited transcriptions as to some of what was argued at our 1994 meeting of the Minds Conference. The underlying sections, and I'll stop here because I'm explaining it now. because it says, you know what? Let me not stop. Let me just read it. The underlying sections of this transcription are the direct influences and intentions of our hip-hop preservation movement. If you have your gospel, you'll see there are underlines within this transcription. These are the core intentions that the Temple of Hip-Hop follows. So you can see our intent is not just based on KRS-ONE's intent or vision. Our intent as an institution, as a temple, is based upon this collective view of hip-hop, and it's underlined and so on. And you see the way in which I'm teaching this is that you can see X-Man made a point. We are on that. Africa Bambaataa made a point. We on that. Crazy Legs made a point. We on that. Jacqueline Hines and others, I'm thinking of Harry Allen, made a point. This is what is creating our cultural view of ourselves, not our own personal views, not just what we think, but what do we think collectively? And this happened at this meeting. Then I did follow-up meetings because some of what was said here, like the historical parts, changed. It changed. In this meeting, hip-hop begins in 1971. Another time I asked Herc, it was 72. We all finally settled on 73 because of the flyer, because we had physical evidence of something and didn't have physical evidence of anything else. So this is an agreement. You know, we teach that as well, that we agree on August 11th, 1973, but pinning down the origin date of a culture is impossible because a culture comes from everywhere. So we try to discuss all the dates that hip hop could possibly come from as part of scholarship, but we agree on August 11th, 1973. Study carefully and not only use this piece of unedited history as an accurate reference for true hip hop scholarship and activism, but through meditation and or visualization, place yourself in the meeting as a citizen of hip hop culture. What would you have said? What would you have suggested? After such a meeting, what would you have done? These are the key meditative points on this. This particular transcription is very important to the awareness of the truly committed hip hop activists. This is a major part of what guides the Temple of Hip Hop and all true hip hop is seeking to advance the culture of hip hop. The time for talk and no action is over. The time for complaining with no plan of action has ceased. If we are truly serious about freedom, justice, and equality under just laws, it's time we start acting like the community we keep begging America to be. America has its own problems, as do we. Therefore, let us get serious about our own future as hip hoppers. Let us go down in history as the greatest urban movement of all time. Let us mature and rise to the cultural heritage that we have been born into. Let us as hip hoppers fulfill the dream of our parents. This is the meaning of our movement. Yes, there are other movements of worthy cause, even worthy of more immediate attention. But hip hop's preservation is what God has given to us as our task. Hip hop is our burden. In history, this is what future generations will know of our moves meant. Know our moves meant. And look at this. In history, this is what future generations will know our moves meant. Movement. But in the gospel, it will know what our moves meant. Our moves for the preservation and further development of hip hop include a full-service hip hop city. And it is this ultimate vision that defines the meaning of our moves today, our movement. This is the meaning of why we move. As a temple, we are building our city. and maintaining our city. So first, we're educating the society. We're building the society. Everyone who's part of this call is part of the legitimate hip-hop society, the hip-hop culture that was built by us, all of us, starting with Kool Herc, Zulu Nation, Flash, and everybody else. All of us. And so on paragraph 190 on page 528, let me read you it again. This is the temple. This is what we're here to do. And I'm reading it because we're in prophecy. Our moves for the preservation and further development of hip hop include a full service hip hop city. And it is this ultimate vision that defines the meaning of our moves today, our movement. This is the meaning of why we move. But we also know that revolution only benefits those that participate in it. New ideas and revolutionary movements can be preached from every street corner in the world. But if the listener is still unable to participate in the actualization of such ideas and movements, then such talk is only entertainment. This is what hip hop has been experiencing ever since our famous Meeting of the Minds conference in 1994. Even though many of us have spoken strongly and accurately about the challenges facing our hip hop community, very few have actually organized themselves against such challenges. And even worse, when people like myself stepped up to begin the process of organization, fear, doubt, and distrust from our own people cripple our plans before we can even begin. And this is what happened. Right after all that grand talk, mad dudes fronted. I will call no names here because this gospel is a historical document that can have lasting effects upon the children of such saboteurs. Everyone should be given time to mature past their own fears. However, in my time, your past, I've been criticized as being a false prophet, cult leader, antichrist, and of wanting to own hip hop, and even as being a member of the Illuminati. But all of these criticisms and critics have fallen to the wayside. I am only doing what we all said we wanted done. Those who are serious about hip hop's preservation and further development have taken the vow, I am hip hop, and have united with others to form the temple of hip hop, which is the actualization of our goals and collective vision. I hope y'all hear this. We have a plan and we will fulfill it. In fact, in your time, my future, we have already fulfilled it. See, you're not hearing this last piece. This is the meaning of our movement. Victory over the streets. There it is. And look at this. Let me go back to you real quick. Those who are serious about hip hop's preservation and further development have taken the vow, I am hip hop, and have united with others to form the temple of hip hop, which is the actualization. See, that's the key word, the actualization of our goals and collective vision. I want you to hear this. The actualization of our goals and collective vision. This is why the Temple of Hip Hop exists. We have a plan and we will fulfill it. In fact, now here's the affirmation and prophecy. This is affirmation. This is prophecy coming true through affirmation. In fact, in your time, see, I'm writing to the future now. In your time, my future, we have already fulfilled it. Now, I wrote this when there was no way to fulfill the prophecy that Kool Herc mentioned. And by the way, this piece here was written close to like 2004. like around 2004, we writing this. And we had about 10 years from 1994 of summits and conferences and follow-up and all of this stuff. But it's still like 2004. And then the gospel comes out 2009. So look at the 2004 and look, oh wow, look at 2024. I mean, it's go to 2024. In fact, from 94 to 2024 is approximately 30 years. Look at that. So from the time Kool Herc said this, 30 years later, the prophecy came true. And in fact, the prophecy is going to come true in exactly 30 years because we opened in 2024. This was said in 1994, that hip hop needs a place, a space that is called hip hop, that this is where it is, and you could place not only your money, but your talent and other things here. We're now in the prophecy, and I want you to be aware of it. Because if in fact you could now smoke weed without cops harassing, if 50 years down the line you could start this, if Kool Herc said we need a place and we are now in the place, you now need to rethink or further think your own divinity within this culture. I'm citing facts. I'm not citing opinion, theory. I'm citing fact. I'm citing transcribed words, which, by the way, we have on video. If you think somehow this was made up, we have the video where Herc is in front of the camera saying exactly this. So he says it, we record it, we write it down and say, this is going to be our affirmation as a temple. This is what we're going to follow. We're not following KRS-ONE. We're following all of hip-hop's pioneers, architects, founders, all of them. And we're synthesizing the intent of what they're saying into a gospel, into a teaching. So you got to realize that your gospel of hip hop, or should I say this, you got to realize that your scholarship on hip hop rests on actual facts. On actual facts. On actual facts. And if the actual facts are actually producing themselves to be real and true and right and useful, you got to sit back and meditate and be like, wait a minute, hold up. You mean to tell me Kool Herc said this, you wrote it down, 30 years later, it comes true. Hold up, wait a minute. 30 years later, it comes true. Complete with the parking lot. And you're still going to doubt God. You're still going to doubt the ancestors. You're still going to doubt your own divinity. The choice is yours. I choose to believe in my divinity. And the word believe is weird here because I'm experiencing my divinity. I don't really have to believe in it. I have to respond to it. It's happening to me. It's happening to us. And if you care to sit back and just watch, then there it is. You the one in the seat watching us play the game. And there's going to be a champion. There's going to be a champion to this game. And you seeing us score points. And you're still going to sit there. The choice is yours. The truth is here. And the facts have been written, have been, there we go. We have fulfilled our own gospel. That's all a temple can ever hope to do. Fulfill its own prophecies, fulfill its own principles, stay true to its own history. That's all any church, temple, mosque, anyone can hope to do, synagogue. Today, we are fulfilling our own prophecies. We have achieved the vision we had for ourselves when we were younger, I should say, when we were younger and naive and didn't know. All we knew was what we knew. And against all odds, against impossible, now here God has proven that with man, things are impossible. With God, all things are possible. Let this be a living example to you. A living example. Not a book example. Not some external. We are living this right now. You're in the prophecy. You're in the prophecy. Especially if you've been reading with us the gospel of hip hop now for the last couple of years. If you've been reading with us, if you've been studying with the temple of hip hop, you are in the prophecy. Receive your crown. Receive your anointing. Believe in yourself. Bring faith to yourself. Our mission is not just in our head. It's now physical. And you now know that you can bring mental reality into physical reality. You know the alchemy now. You know how to do this. You see it done. You've seen it done. The physical temple of hip hop is not the lesson. How we got there is. This is why I say the pyramid is not the wonder. How you got to that pyramid is the true wonder. This has been the Temple of Hip Hop. I am KRS-ONE. This is going to conclude our read for this weekend, for this week. And I want you guys to remember your divinity. That's the point of this. Remember your divinity through prophecy, through prediction, through affirmation. When these things come true, it's you that have to rise and respond to your divinity. It's you that have to take your spirituality more seriously. I don't know if Son One, if you're still on with us, if you have any closing remarks, but I'm going to sign off now. This is the Temple of Hip Hop. I am KRS-ONE, and I'll give it maybe 20 seconds or so. If in fact Son One is coming back to the session as well. Matter of fact, you might want to give him a ring. Okay. If he wants to close this out, I'll wait a little while longer. But that's what the lesson is today. That's what the lesson is today. It's about recognizing through prophecy your divinity. It's about taking your spiritual life more seriously. And not just seriously because of not just seriously because of some belief, but take it seriously because of evidence and facts that are in front of you. There it is. Son One.
There it is.
I'm out of here. Thank you. And what's going on over there? Is it happening?
Yeah, it's getting busy and it's getting live. We over here, we got Chef Apollo Parks in the building, myself, some volunteers, temple members, all day, A-Lots.
Peace and
See
much
what
love,
it is.
everybody.
BDP tent down the way. People showing up, words getting out, and this is when it starts to get serious. So it's going down, but we got everything under the sun. We got chicken, turkey burgers, turkey bacon, turkey dogs, corn on the cob, turkey kielbasa, Philly
Well,
steak
that's
and
it.
cheese,
Get the word.
you name it. Oh yes, no, it's going down, brother.
Get the word out. It's all love. Signing off. You have the closing remarks. I'm out.
Word, peace and love, G.
Peace.
So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are at the BDP Cookout, live from the Temple of Hip Hop. I'll show you real quick. Got more people signing in, getting some free notebooks, some pens, pads, and we also have a copy of the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace that we're giving out. But yes, so prophecy. Again, you can see what it is. This is literally what it is. We're here and we're active, and the people are responding, and it's a beautiful thing. It's the neighborhood, and it's a very nice neighborhood. Of course, it needs maintenance like every other neighborhood, um, and essentially that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna maintain it. Uh, this is home for us for now, for the foreseeable future, and this is where our success lies. And we're gonna take advantage of that and make sure that we affect the community in the proper way so that we be that example of what hip hop is supposed to look like. Shout out to Rockness Monster from Boot Camp Clip. I heard him say yesterday on the live, help me, help us, help hip hop. And that's dope. It should be a t-shirt. Um, but yeah, it's just a beautiful time that we're having out here. Again, thanks to everybody who contributed. A lot of people sent in last minute contributions, even though, or technically we weren't asking for contributions at first, but I felt in order to make it more of a six, or just to up it up a little bit. Again, you can always do the minimum and get by, but my teacher taught me to shoot for excellence. Excellence. If it's not excellence, if you're not doing a divine performance and giving an excellent performance, there's really no sense in doing it at all. And I know that's kind of harsh, but it's the truth. Uh, we want to be excellent. We want to be as perfect as possible. That is our aim. We never stop trying. And thus we'll never fail. So peace and love to you. Again, motivate yourself, inspire yourself, get yourself to that point where you could be most useful to those around you and most definitely to yourself. You need health, love, and awareness for yourself. Peace and much love. This is the Temple of Hip Hop. I am Minister Sun One. The Temple of Hip Hop is a hip hop ministry, archive, school, and society. We believe that the best way to preserve hip hop is to preserve you, the hip hopper. Peace and much love. We out.